Hey everyone, welcome to Zen and Tech, our weekly podcast focused on centering your inner geek and using technology to help you deal with your connected life. I'm Renee, and your host for the show is Georgia. Before we begin, I just want to remind you that while Georgia is a therapist, she's not your therapist. Everything said or implied on this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and shouldn't be taken in any way as a replacement for personal, professional care. Georgia, there's someone standing between you and I for the first time ever in history.
Yeah, this is our first guest, actually, on Zen and Tech.
It is, and we could not have picked a better, more gracious, more congenial, more knowledgeable guest than the one that we did.
I know, I'm so excited.
I need my wind.
We're recording this so you can play it back later. You can play it back for the wife and say, look, people do value me.
I need my hero shot.
Yes.
Oh, you can do the turnaround set. Phil, you can do the turnaround shot if you want, like in the movies when the villain is. Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hey, Phil, thank you so much for showing up.
Thanks. I'm here all night, literally.
Try the veal tippy waitress.
It's great.
We share a common source of stress, Georgia, a common genesis of our anxiety in that CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, arguably one of the, actually I guess inarguably one of the biggest trade shows of the year, is only a few days away. And Phil has been charged with getting the mighty mobile nations empire there in one piece, as sane as, possibly can be expected.
Right, and we had spoken before about travel stress, and the one thing is traveling for fun, whereas, there's no one else that's going to be on you if you've forgotten something or if you didn't pack something that you really need. But the difference is work. When you're traveling for work, you need to make sure that you have everything there, because if not, time is money, and there's some things that you can't replace, and you need to make sure that everything is set up.
I have to apologize. I actually didn't introduce him, but this is Phil Nickson, the editor-in-chief of Android Central, and one of the guiding lights of the Mobile Nations publishing. I called it an empire before. I don't want to repeat myself. Networks. How's that?
I liked
Empire.
Yeah. All right.
That's
back
good.
to Empire. Stormtroopers. Come on.
Hang on. I'm trying to figure out a word you just said. Traveling for fun.
You don't take the family to Disney?
I did last year, right before. You want to hear my Disney? You know my Disney story. I took the family to Disney in March. It's an 8-hour drive for us, and from where I live in Florida, I'm like on the complete other side of Florida. So we go to Disney, and then come home. We went to Daytona Beach to see some family on Saturday. Drove home on Sunday, so it's like a 7-hour drive from Daytona. And then Monday morning, I was home for like 12 hours. Monday morning, I fly back down to Orlando for work.
That doesn't sound like a lot of fun, really. It just sounds like a lot of travel.
It's so I looked it up as I was doing a year-end post because dive into it, right? I live on TripIt. I cannot get through this without TripIt. So I was doing a year-end post on it, and looks like I did probably about 46,000 miles, 60 days on the road last year, which, in the scheme of things, Jesus, you look in the airports of these people who travel, 120, 150,000 miles a year and are just gone all the time. So like what I do is nothing. But for me, that was the most I've traveled, and I've got, 2 kids. I've got a 15-month-old and a 5-year-old, and it's tough. And, you learn to kind of make it as easy as possible. And a lot of the trips I do are 24-hour trips. I leave at 7 in the morning, and I'm back by like lunchtime.
Well, we joke about it, but Georgia and I on Tippy, we get 1 tablet and 1 phone a year, maybe, and you get 8 or 9 by breakfast, and you've got to go to events for a lot of those.
Yeah, a lot of, and it's the job, right? And it's fun.
You did a 23-hour live blog a couple months ago.
Oh my God, that was awesome! I forgot about that. What was that for? That was for
the Droid Razor and then the Galaxy Nexus.
No, it was for the Galaxy Nexus.
Yeah.
And Android 4.0, and it's like, what are we going to do to upstage everybody? I said, oh hell, you're starting your live blog like tonight? We're going to start now. So we started at 8 in the morning. Fortunately, I didn't have to travel for that. So,
but I think, George, that's a very. I mean, my father recently got his. I think it was Million Frequent Flyer Mile Award. You get basically a super elite status for life, and he got a model of a plane. And he looked at me and he said, "That was just one of the airlines that I flew." Yeah. And so there's people out there like Phil, like George Clooney in the movies that are that travel isn't fun.
or that they're traveling all the time, which is horrific for them. But the cool part about that, Phil, is that you must have some really awesome tips for making travel a little bit less stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's it's going to be really personal for everybody. I think it depends why you're traveling, how far you're traveling, how often you travel. So, I mean, what works for me is vastly different than what works for my wife, right? For me, it's all about getting there as quickly as possible, and then doing the job and then coming home. For other people, it's about enjoying the experience of flying. And actually, I like to fly. I didn't used to. It used to, hate to say, stress me out because I don't get stressed out, but I didn't like not being in control. The thought of falling for 2 or 3 minutes before dying was not happy. And if
that's where all phobias from flying actually come through, is that idea of control. So, and trust.
And I've gotten over it because it's pretty awesome to be able to be in New York City in 5 hours instead of driving 5 hours and being in Birmingham. So I've learned to get over it. So, yeah, I mean, it all starts. I told Renee, here's how I prepared for the show tonight. I just grabbed my bag, which is never, ever really unpacked.
There's a good tip. Just don't unpack.
Yeah, I don't. I've had, events and shows where I don't unpack my actual bag. I mean, for me, the number one thing right now is not having to check a bag ever. When we went to Barcelona, my first time in Barcelona, my luggage didn't make it. That sucked. So for me, I just carry on all the time now. That's very important to the fact where I was, finding my way onto the plane as early as possible. So,
So you don't have to worry about something important being lost. You don't have to worry about waiting in lines to check your bags in or to,
what's worse,
wait till they disembark the bags off of the plane.
If you're doing an international flight, you will sometimes have to go get your bag, take it off, go through customs, put it back on, and they often don't give you enough time, especially if you have to change terminals. If you can possibly avoid it, I mean, I do that too. I'll even wear like the Scotty vest jacket and put as much stuff as I can in there so I don't have to check it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a brilliant tip.
It's a big pain. So, I mean, starting with your bags is number one. I've got an awesome carry-on bag that I think Dieter actually turned me on to. It's got skateboard wheels.
Can you show it to us?
It's.
Do you know what it's called?
Around and grab it. Yeah, it's. Who makes it? I just totally forgot who makes it. Timbuktu. It's Timbuktu bag.
I like any bag that has wheels in the first place, just because if you're traveling for a long time, it just makes things so much easier to be able to drag your bag off of the floor instead of having to carry it.
It absolutely does. I mean, and probably the other, flat necessity is a phone. I mean, and I know we talk about phones all day long, but really I could not do it without this. I mean, I have, especially in Android now, you can really do folders nicely, and same thing in iOS. And I think we all pretty much have the same apps, right? Google Maps, you can't travel without Google Maps. I use Flight Track and TripIt religiously. You have to use TripIt to keep track of where you're going. And actually, the real reason I love TripIt is because it will watch my Gmail accounts where I can just forward the itinerary to it, right? It sucks it in. But you can also have networking at TripIt, right? So,
hold on a second. Before you go on, Phil, I've done the thing where I forward the TripIt mail, but you were smart enough to set up a Google filter that automatically does. You're a genius.
No. It's not even a filter. TripIt does it.
I did not know that.
Yeah, you can tie it into your account, and then TripIt just watches the folder. So every half hour or whatever, it checks your Gmail for you and looks for an itinerary.
Wow.
That's great.
But the really important reason is so you can have, friends networked, like I've added Renee, and then you have your inner circle. And so my wife is in my inner circle, and so is my mom and my mother-in-law. So I don't actually have to forward them where I am or the number for the hotel just in case they need it. They automatically have it anytime I add anything to TripIt. Huge service. I don't have to worry about it. If they want to know where I am, they just open their own phone. My wife opens her iPhone and says, all right, he's in New York this week. Or
did you pay for Pro, Phil?
Yes. Yeah. I do TripIt.
Me too.
Grand Link and Uber for getting around once you're there, if you want to pay for them. I use the Delta app because I fly on Delta, and their app is just excellent. Done a really, really good job with that. Music, movies, very important. Headphones, good headphones.
What kind of headphones do you use?
So I've got the Bose, whatever. These are the ones that have the little mic, so you can use it with the phone as well, which is actually really handy when you're getting off a plane. The last thing I want to do in an airport is kind of one-hand my way around the place. So I can just use the mic on here. And I don't talk on the phone a lot, but when I do.
Here's a question, Phil. Do you travel with, because I have to go to CES with you, and I'm going to be data roaming there, but Kevin is going to bring with him, Kevin from crackberry.com is going to bring his normal phone with him. He's going to bring an AT&T phone, I think an AT&T iPhone with him. So do you travel with multiple phones, or do you try to keep it down to one?
Absolutely. And I understand that's not really normal. And it's not just multiple phones, but I travel with multiple carriers. So I've got my personal accounts on AT&T, and that's what I have with the Galaxy Nexus. I have an SP Verizon line here. So I've always got a GSM phone, and I've always got a CDMA phone, plus LTE. So if one doesn't work, the other does. And when we were in where were we? San Diego. That was actually a big deal. The GSM phones were just horrible. I had T-Mobile. I had a T-Mobile review phone. I had an AT&T phone. They just did not work. Verizon was the only one that I could get to work.
Well, you remember last year at CES, I would because a Rogers iPhone will roam on either AT&T or T-Mobile, whichever signal it can get the strongest, and it was literally failing and changing between buildings as we walked through the underground, like the skyway.
It's horrendous when you have that many people around. It's just impossible. The other thing I have to have now is actual, just data. So I've got an LTE stick from Verizon. Very, very important. That's, once you go LTE, you can't go back. It's really, really tough when we go to Europe once or twice a year, and we'll get MiFis for Europe, and it's so slow. It's so painful. It's better than nothing. But
now, do you need extra batteries, extra chargers because the LTE is hungry?
Absolutely. So LTE phones are horrendous. Let me find my little battery pack here. I have more chargers just sitting around in this bag than
what do you charge them all with? Because you have so many different phones. So do you use do you carry different chargers that are specific for them, or do you use one of those
most of the time? No. Yeah, they're all micro USB, right? But they've kind of gotten around that by Samsung phones generally charge quicker using Samsung chargers, which is just ridiculous. It is so wrong. It's kind of the equivalent of trying to charge an iPad with an iPhone charger. Yeah. It just doesn't really
trickle charge, but
right, exactly. If I'm able to charge them overnight, then I don't worry about it. If I'm only going to be somewhere for a day, it's not a big deal.
Dan has a charging bag, right? Like he has a giant bag.
Yes, so Dan Rubino from WP Central has this awesome charging bag. I was up in New York in October. I don't remember when. And he showed it to me. And this thing is awesome. It's just got power cords coming out of everywhere. I carry around this little...
Now, the bag itself would plug in, and then it has a whole bunch of massive ports. So it's
a big-ass lithium-ion battery. I assume it's lithium-ion.
Yeah.
Big-ass battery inside it, and then that will charge all the devices. You can plug in your cables.
You have to lug the battery bag around, but...
Awesome.
Right. So you get a little weight because of the battery that's in it, but yeah.
You just need to stick wheels on that baby.
Full skateboard wheels plus Dan's.
That's the answer to everything. Just put wheels on it.
They have a messenger bag. They have a backpack. I think Dan had the backpack. It's basically a writ large equivalent of this little thing. So I've got a 3,000 milliamp hour battery that I carry around with me. And I know they make 6,000 milliamp hours, but this is the one that I found works well for me.
I do that too. So I carry two of the smaller Mofis rather than one of the bigger ones because two of them. It's lighter. It's more flexible. I have a redundancy. I like it better.
Yeah, the Mofis for the iPhones are excellent.
Yeah.
Those are just really the way to go. This, I would prefer to have a spare battery over this, I think. But, it works fine. It works in a pinch. What else? That's kind of the big stuff. Once I'm there, hotels for sleeping and working. And one thing to not forget especially is I call it a four-banger because it's got 4 plugs, but a little power strip. Right?
Yes.
A whole bunch of really good traveling power strips. And I hate it when I forget it. And in fact, I have power strips.
So can you show it? What exactly does this do?
A power bar.
Yeah, but for those that don't know.
I don't take stuff out.
Not all of the people that watch the show are actual techies.
You can't prove that.
Civilians. I love you guys. So I've got this little travel power strip. Not very big. So it's got 4 plugs in it, and the cord wraps around itself. So it's not small, right? Here it is next to a Galaxy Nexus, but it gets the job done. And I just leave this in my bag all the time. I never take it out when I get home. I think that's key for when you travel a lot. is have a bag of stuff that you take when you travel. Don't take anything out of it because you're going to forget it next time.
Yeah.
You'll absolutely forget it next time. I have 2 chargers for my laptop.
That's a nice one because it's really small.
Mm-hmm. I have 2 chargers for my laptop. One sits here at my desk all the time and is always plugged in. The other is in the bag all the time. Never take it out. Because the one time I did, went to Vegas a couple years ago, forgot to put it in the bag. Next thing I know, I'm buying another charger in Vegas. So I really do almost have 2 of everything.
Do you do a lot of like list keeping beforehand? Like, do you make a lot of lists or make reminders to help you beforehand?
Sure, because that would be really helpful. And I recommend I don't do any of that. I am horrible. But that's when I get myself into these patterns so that I know exactly, all right, the night before, or if I'm really being good, a day and a half before, I'll start getting everything charged and everything ready to go. No, I don't make lists, but you really should. I wish I could. I've tried to do it. My brain does not work that way. But if lists are what you need to get you through the travel process, then by all means do it. Absolutely.
I created a list in reminders called Travel George, and I'll just open up Siri and say, add this to the travel list. And it's
nice.
It's a much, I'm a very lazy person, but being able to add it by voice just makes it so much easier. So if you have, I guess Vilingo has been bought, but their app is still around, or Nuance or whatever, if you can add stuff easily by voice, I recommend it.
Yeah. Now, Phil, do you take photos of all of your information just in case you lose it? So passports and other things. We were talking.
I've seen the passport stuff in the news this week, and actually that got me thinking I really need to do that. Yeah. I haven't. Yeah. I tell you what I normally take a picture of is the hotel room number when I get up there. So I
do the same thing. I take a picture of it as well so that it's with me and I don't have to worry about remembering it.
Yeah, same here. And parking.
Because I'll get lost anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah, do that for
absolutely.
Parking.
I wanted to ask you guys, so this is a big thing in the news lately, and especially a month or so ago or whenever, because Alec Baldwin is an idiot. But a lot of people, Nick Bilton from New York Times, and somebody else who did some studies, I think. So the big thing about having to turn your gadgets off, and I really hate gadgets because I consider these all tools for what we do for a living, but having to turn your stuff off after the doors close on the plane, and you having to sit there for half an hour. Or, sometimes, look, I've sat on a plane for an hour between the time I've been told to take stuff off and the time we actually take off or, get up to 10,000 feet. Where do you guys stand on that? My thing, and Philip Byrne wrote a really, really good column for Slash Gear if you haven't seen it. He posted it up yesterday. That basically just says, shut up, turn your stuff off, listen to the flight attendants.
Pretend you're a civilian.
Just chill for 20 minutes, half an hour, whatever it is. It's not going to kill you. And I totally agree with that. I think you got to listen to them, pay attention. That's their job. And, B, you're going to be fine for 45 minutes. The world will not stop. God forbid you take a breath. And if anyone needs to take a breath, it's me. But just sitting, planes are not pleasant places. Just relax, chill, let your brain breathe for a few minutes.
I think it's a brilliant thing, to say, the therapist in me says, yes, relax, take it in, make sure that you're absorbing all the information that's actually there. I do actually look to where the exits are everywhere that I am. I always take a little bit of a mental note just in case, because if there is a fire end or if there's smoke, you're going to have to find this blind. So if you don't know where it is with your eyes open, you're definitely not going to be able to make it with your eyes out. That being said, I guess it is the reason why I'm employed dealing with stress, and a note to our culture today, sitting there for 40 minutes having to wait, though you're absolutely right. We should listen. We should deal with it. But can I be honest and say that that's what I will do? No, I'm not going to do that.
Do your breathing?
I do my breathing. I do my breathing when it is necessary. That's one of the tips that I use the most. But I'm going to want to at least turn on my phone and I'll put it on to airplane mode and play a game or do something during that time. I've been through also a lot of flights, so I kind of know the routine.
What about magazines or paper products? I've heard we used to use those in the old days.
I tell you, that's what I do. Delta's got those little magazines and I flip through it in the 20, 30 minutes I'm waiting, and it's perfectly fine. The ink doesn't rub off on my finger. It's not the world's greatest publication, but it's not supposed to be.
Phil, paper cuts.
Oh, I used to play with paper for a living. No,
I'll show you
fine.
paper cuts, Georgia.
And as soon as we're at 10,000 feet, I grab all my crap out of my bag and I get back to work.
The thing with me it's worse than the waiting on the plane, because at least I feel like I can, I can just see that through, is the hurry up and wait in the airport. Like you rush to get there on time, then you wait in the security line, then you rush and you wait in the customs, because in Canada you go through customs first, because there's less airports, less need to pay for customs employees. And that's always stressful. So that's where I find I've got to do my breathing. I've got to stay calm. I've got to just, relax and get through it before I can have the luxury of turning off my electronics on the plane.
There is no better feeling for me than when I can go to an airport and not be rushed. And a lot of the times I'm rushed. Sometimes I'm not. And when I'm not, it's so relaxful to sit there and watch people freaking out everywhere trying to get through this stuff. It's like, you know what, chill. I tell you the other thing I try to make sure I do, because I go through Atlanta a lot. If you've ever been through the Atlanta airport, you have to change terminals. You go underground and there are trains that will take you. And it's probably good 200, maybe 300 yards between terminals. And if I have time and, I've got more than half an hour between flights, I'll walk it. Don't take the train. They have little moving walkways you can walk on, and I'll use them because actually they're rubbery and springy and kind of fun. But
they're kind of neat.
I'll walk the 300 yards, and I think it's not a big difference, but any little bit of exercise I can get in a day of travel, I think is really important.
And try not to wear any clothes. Like a way to get through the security lines a little bit faster, and for everyone else, try not to wear clothing that has a whole bunch of metal chips and pieces on it.
I am amazed at what I see people wear. It's insane.
Yeah, but you're going to hold up yourself and or everyone else and have to take all of that off and or deal with it. So try not to do that, please.
Prevention.
And then there's Houston in the summer and people are barely wearing anything. I understand it's hot. It's love people watching in the airport. It's so much fun.
I smartphone watch. I like BlackBerry, Android, iPhone, BlackBerry, Android. It keeps you busy.
Yep. Yeah, and I'll end up talking with people on the planes about it. And oh yeah, I love it. I don't know how to use it, but I love it.
Do you talk tech? Really? You talk tech on the plane?
Sometimes, yeah.
See, that's someone that loves his job.
Yeah, because generally when people see me turning off 5 phones, they're like, all right, what's the deal?
So, Phil, do they ever, for your cell phones, do they see how many cell phones that you have, and is that like increase your security risk to others?
No. I usually have 3. I try not to have 4 in my pocket. I'll have 2 in my left pocket and 1 in my right when I'm traveling. And then, if I have more in the bag, then I have more in the bag. But no, I've never been stopped because of that. I've been stopped because of all the crap in my bag, and I want to take a second look at it, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, Dieter used to get stopped for microphones because they looked funny.
Yeah. I've only had the mic ping them once, so that hasn't been bad. I was coming out of LaGuardia one time this year, and I forget what phone it was. I think it was the Sprint Galaxy S2. And I hate to say the kid working for the TSA there, but the young man working security says, "Hey, is that new one?" I was like, "Yes, it is." "That's not out yet, is it?" I said, "No, it's not. I'm special."
I love
but
that.
it was cool that somebody recognized the phone, and I meant to try to slip him a business card, but didn't want to get him in trouble.
I had that the last CES. I had to go through that enhanced security, the 3-hour line and the medical exam, and then I got to the TSA finally, and they're like, and the girl's like, "What is that?" And I said, "Oh, it's an iPhone." She goes, "I know that, sugar. I want to know what the case is."
There we go.
Yeah. It's a Mophie. It's a Mophie. Get one.
Yes, and you should always actually have your business cards with you in an easy-to-access place because it's important.
Yeah, and also like with customs, you should have you should know what you're telling them when you get there, because it's not a good time to try to make up a story, or forget and start panicking. Like, they understand you're nervous. Everyone's nervous in front of authority, especially with the kind of power that customs has. So just tell them where you're going. Know your address for your hotel. Carry a pen with you so you can fill out customs cards. You're not sitting there trying to beg one at the last minute. Just. Mm-hmm. Go through it beforehand. Try and role play it at least once so you're prepared when the inevitable happens.
Comfortable shoes. Yeah. Cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, dress in layers so that you're warm.
Yeah.
I hate being on the plane and being cold.
Drink water.
They don't give out the stuff that they used to give out anymore either. They're not just like, there's not like free blankies and everything else for anyone that so would wish.
The 800-pound guy is going to try to sit next to you without paying for a second seat, so just adjust your expectations accordingly.
And Is there anything that you don't say when you go through customs? Is there anything that you have to make sure that you are careful or wary about?
It's different for you Canadians, I think. I hear the horror stories of people who have a hard time getting in the U.S. And I've only ever gone through customs, coming in at JFK and going out in Barcelona and Amsterdam, and it was simple as anything. Security over there was a little more lax, but at the same time, they had 20-year-olds with machine guns walking around. So you trade one for the other. Yeah. So it's a little different for us. I just go over there. They said, "What are you here for?" I said, "Business. I got this show to go to," and that was that. I hear if you say you're coming in for business and you're from Canada, they don't let you in.
Well, I mean, it's like, first, don't joke. Like, don't make any no matter how charming you think your joke is or how funny you think it is.
Customs is like labor and delivery. It's like giving birth. You are not funny. No matter how good the joke is, no matter how many times that joke just killed before. My wife, the first baby we had, we roll up to the ER, and it's like 1 a.m. The nurse is behind the glass, and she says, "Can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah, we're here for the card game." Everybody just, my wife obviously pregnant in labor. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Customs.
Does anybody ever tell you they got a bomb on them? Yeah, that will get you strip searched.
Yeah. Well, I actually almost got stopped for saying something stupid once. I was going for my sister's wedding, and they said, "Well, who is she marrying?" And I said, not actually trying to be a smartass. I was actually just saying it because it came out natural, but it came out sarcastically and snarky. And I said, to her fiance, and he did not. He actually grabbed my passport and he moved it to the side, and he did not think that was like
he thought I was find you charming at all.
It just came out. And then unfortunately for him, he stamped the wrong passport. So he stamped mine by mistake. And then he goes to hand it back. and he hands it back to my boyfriend, who then gives it to me. And he's like, "What?" And then he looks and he realizes that he's holding back his passport, and he's already stamped mine. And then he looked at me like, "You're so bloody lucky." And we got to go through. So, yeah, it can be, it's not the time to, like, you listen to them, smile, be polite, even if it's something that you...
And one thing I've found through personal experimentation is if you are clean-shaven and well-dressed, you usually get far less hassles than if you're not clean-shaven or sloppily dressed or look otherwise unprofessional.
Which is true in so many things in life, though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and you'll get crap for saying that, but it's the way it is. Sorry.
Yeah.
I tell you, for the 50 flights I took in 2011, I mean, I've never seen TSA be anything but professional. I mean, I understand the horror stories are out there, and especially if you don't fly often and you have to deal with that, it can be a little unnerving. But 50 flights that I've taken, not once have I had anyone be anything but professional. So
same here.
My hat's off to them. It's
also
not
remember
what
you take with you. Remember, Renee, wasn't there someone that had asked you to travel and bring this special type of...
Yeah, I was going to China and someone asked me to bring some sort of confectionery pastry flour with me. And I said, there is absolutely no way any form of powder is traveling with me.
It was white powder in a no-named Chinese package. It really looked bad.
It was a gift, but that stayed home. That was not going anywhere. Do not take anything that you cannot personally vouch for with you.
If you don't know what's inside the package,
you will do the time.
don't say yes to it.
Yeah.
And yes, open up the package if you're not sure.
Mm-hmm.
Not kidding.
I think that's it. I think that was awesome.
Those are my little tips.
That's great.
Well, you are a font of knowledge, sir.
FONT?
Yeah, you are a beautifully foundered Adobe-style professional font of
Do I have serifs or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
If
Am I properly kerned?
If we are
kerning, is this kerning or leading?
You're kerning and led. You've led to be kerned. If we want to find out more about you, where can we do that?
I'm generally at 30,000 feet now. AndroidCentral.com is where I am most of the time. Mobile Nations, all these little podcasts we do. I'm watching myself 30 seconds later doing my kerning and letting thing with my face. It's pretty awesome, actually.
It's like
Google Plus,
time.
Phil Nickson, Twitter, Phil Nickson.
Oh, I'm just looking at it now. That's great. It's like a Finding Nemo impression.
Georgia, instead of Nemo, where do we find you?
Oh, you find me on the website, zenandtech.tv, and also on Twitter at GeorgiaTIPB. Plus, I'm on Google+.
Yes, Georgia Smith on Google+.
Georgia Smith, which hilariously, I have an article that I wrote, and now it's written as Georgia Smith. I'm like, yeah, that's Google getting back at me.
Yeah, someone went
like, hey, I didn't even know your last... Oh, damn it.
That's clever.
Just funny.
Yeah. And you can find me at Renee Ritchie. You can find all of us at Zen and Tech, or you can send us an email to podcast@zenandtech.tv, or leave a comment when the show goes live on the blog. For all of our shows, you can go to mobilenations.com/shows. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe, leave a review, leave a rating. It means a lot to us. And safe travels, I guess. Right, George?
Right. And thank you so much, Phil, for coming on the show and helping to make other people's travel a little bit less stressful. And we'll have all of the apps and things that Phil has talked about in the show notes, so you won't have to worry. So check.
You had your own disclaimer at the beginning of the show. Here's mine. If your travel experience sucks, don't blame me.
Let Phil be stressed so you don't have to.